Oh, I forgot to do.
Right. Hello. Welcome to Cut and Uncut with Daphne and Bonnie Violet. My name is Daphne and I'm cut.
And I'm Bonnie Violet, and I'm Uncut. Here we talk about all things trans.
And then some.
In this episode, we will be picking up where we left off from chapter 1, now at chapter 2, followed by Freckled Angels.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to our Patreon members, Skylar Bean in our tier trade. Our free members are Jacob Blankenship, Elizabeth, Danielle Loyal, Bertha D, and Carrie Beardsley. Eclectic Fandom, and our newest member is Alexi Satala. Hugs and kisses, and thank you for joining us.
All right, and be sure to watch us on YouTube, which most of you probably are right now as we're live streaming. But you can also join us on Patreon for free or a paid tier, or follow us on TikTok, and be sure to get that merch you're envious of, right? How you doing, sis? Looks like we got
good.
Some.
Happy Pride to everyone. Hey, Miss Deanna girl.
Nope, you're right on time. Yeah, she is right on time. Right on time. Yes, and happy Pride to folks.
The TV show is on.
It is on. Yes.
Okay, Bonnie. So, talk to me about. Give me some prequels here.
Some prequels. What do you mean?
Yeah, so we're in Freckles 2, Freckled Angels, and Chapter 2. And thank everybody for doing the chat with us. There were some amazing chats, suggestions in there. Keep chatting in, keep joining us, keep giving us suggestions. I had put in a comment a couple of times for Bonnie to write them down because there were some amazing ones in there. So yeah, we got a good run.
Yes, we definitely do, and I will get caught up this week. So I was looking up. Janine Walker is the one she's a new sub, I believe, and she also recommended the Freckled Angels, which we'll do after chapter 2.
Is this the LP one that she was explaining?
Freckled Angels was one of Ren's first song. It was on his first album, I believe, was called Freckled Angels, was the album. And then Freckled Angels was about Joe, which is his friend who passed from suicide that we discussed in last week's chapter 1 video. So I thought it made sense that we would go ahead and top off into that this week. So that's what I was thinking. How was your weekend and stuff?
My weekend was really good. I went and listened to some dark 80s music with one of my neighbors.
Dark 80s?
Dark 80s, yeah.
What's dark 80s?
For those of you that don't know what dark 80s music is, it's my era of we called it new wave music, where there are bands like The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Depeche Mode, Pet Shop Boys, all of those good guys are yeah, we were the ones that faded into black.
Like Pet Shop Boys, and then we're considered dark?
Well, they're dark 80s. Because we wore dark clothes and, with the punk hair. And
Gotcha.
It was so fun to see all these people with their canes.
With their canes?
Dancing on the dance floor, the videos.
Good times. Yeah. Nice.
And what about you?
I had the fashion show finally happened after months of planning, and we had hundreds of people show up. We literally had over 300 people showed up. Wow. We made $1,000 for charity for ACLU, which is great because it was a free all ages event. And it turned out really awesome. It was better than we could have even imagined. And it was just the first year. It was our first little shot at it, and it was pretty rad. It was pretty rad.
Aren't you glad I pushed you into doing that, Bonnie?
Oh, please, girl. Please.
I don't want to do it. I don't know.
Right.
You put your tail out there and show them what you got.
Thank you. Thanks for the congrats, Deanna. Should we get going?
Let's do this. Everybody's
all right.
waiting.
So this is chapter 2. Just need to change the little overlay here real quick.
Okay.
We're in Pride Month, so I changed our little flags to Trans Pride, but here we go.
Adidas. All day I dream about sex.
A year of living in a nightmarish purgatory does strange things to your psyche. I was still trying to push through university, but I found myself missing many lectures to stay in bed. I started noticing more unusual symptoms creeping in, a strange buzzing sensation in the soles of my feet. My vision started looking like fuzzy television static, something that I later learned was called visual snow, something with no known origin. My calf muscles started constantly twitching and spasming. At any moment they wouldn't go longer than 20 seconds without twitching, and that can drive you a bit nuts. All these symptoms I still live with to this day. You just become very used to tolerating constant discomfort. It becomes kind of the norm and kind of becomes like an annoying, unsettling radio static in the background of existence. I stopped taking my antidepressants after having cycled many different kinds. None of them helped. All of them gave me some new kind of symptom or side effect like insomnia, dry mouth, heart palpitations, no libido, etc. I spent a lot of my time alone, but in the moments of respite I'd hang out with friends. We formed a band called Trick the Fox the year before I'd gotten sick. It was the one ray of sunshine I had at the time. I quickly became friends with a bass player called Charlie, and we developed some kind of musical telepathy where we both knew what the other was going to play before it even happened. It was the first musician I've ever felt this kind of chemistry with. I became a kind of third wheel in his Momoko's relationship. With time, Momoko became like a sister to me. To this day, it's one of my favourite people on this spinning rock. Performing with Trick the Fox was one of the rare times that I felt free. There was something about the duty of having to entertain others that let me escape the physical limitations of my own sick body, even if just for a moment. I usually pay for it the next day with what can only be described as an energy hangover where I'd be stuck in bed all day, but for me that was worth it. Those days I was still fairly functional. It was around this time I started losing faith in the medical industry. The more appointments I'd go to, adamant that something was wrong, the more of a hypochondriac they treat me as. Medical gaslighting is a real thing with chronic illness. They chalk me down as someone who was always requesting blood tests, and my mental health diagnosis probably didn't help that. Strangely, they never tested me for any kind of pathogens. I decided to embark on a precarious journey into the Russian roulette chamber of Dr. Google. I would type in the most predominant symptom of the day, and Dr. Google would tell me that I have a rare disease and I'm probably going to die. With time, I sharpened my search engine axe and refined what I was looking for. I dived headfirst into the abyss of online support groups, hoping to find solace or answers amongst fellow sufferers. We were like crabs in a barrel. Very rarely someone would find their silver bullet and announce what it was that cured them. Hundreds of people would follow their protocol, some with mild success, but most of us will still remain trapped. I joined as many online support groups as I could. It was a bit like the beginning of Fight Club, except instead of faking conditions to feel accepted, I was desperately hoping I had those conditions so I could cure myself and get the fuck out. I convinced myself I had conditions like candida, magnesium deficiency, parasites, adrenal fatigue, heavy metal poisoning, etc. At the time, I felt like I was single-handedly keeping Jeff Bezos in business. While most students were spending their student loan on drinks, I'd spend mine on the supplement or protocol of the week. I'd follow whatever herbal or supplement protocol was suggested, sometimes noticing mild improvement and sometimes getting a lot worse, most of the time feeling nothing. A story would pop up on one of these groups like, after I did a 30-day parasite cleanse of wormwood, cloves and garlic, all my symptoms disappeared. I'd read a story like this, get full of hope and put myself through a grueling 30 days, which would often result in a worsening of symptoms. My body felt even sicker and weaker, but I'd stick it out because I was told that this was a good sign. The parasites are dying. I peered into the toilet bowl and valiantly waved goodbye as I flushed their imaginary corpses into a watery abyss. At the end of the 30 days, I'd be left with a lighter wallet and all my symptoms still remaining. And if that didn't work, I'd move on to what was next. Maybe I have seasonal affective disorder. Alright, so I'd get on the internet, order a light, stare at it for 10 minutes a day, and to my big fucking surprise, still have all my symptoms. The only thing that light illuminated for me was that I was desperate enough to buy a glorified table lamp. I kid you not when I say that over the years I probably have taken nearly every dietary health supplement known to man. One of the most grueling self-treatment courses came when I did a round-the-clock heavy metal chelation. I would take a supplement called ALA and DMSA, which supposedly shuttled mercury molecules out of your body through a process called chelation. I would have to take the pill once every 3 hours around the clock, which meant setting multiple alarm clocks to wake up and take them. The supplements came with their own side effects. I remember one time standing in a supermarket and feeling like the sounds and lights were so bright that I couldn't even bear to be in there. I stuck with this protocol for a whole year with no luck. I was still coming to terms with the death of one of my best friends during this time too. I was too sick to hold down any kind of stable job, so I was mostly living off my student loan. Welsh students study in England also weirdly get given a small sum of money just for being Welsh, or almost like a "we're really sorry that you're Welsh" sort of condolence prize. I've always prided myself on my financial independence, so whenever I could, I'd get out on the streets of Bath and I'd busk. I remember the very first time I did. I had my guitar in hand, I perched myself on a bench, took a deep breath, and then bared my soul to the jury of the street, and it was exhilarating. People sometimes ask me what music means to me, and it means life. This was usually the one time I felt like I didn't want to die. This was the one time I could feel a resemblance of something that resembled spirit, that resembled my soul, that resembled me. I even found myself cracking jokes with onlookers, which for someone dripping with social anxiety at the time was huge for me. It was March, roughly 3 months after Joe had died, and I was sitting on a bench in Bath with my guitar singing into a busy street. And this is when I would meet the first angel of this story. I'd see 2 more angels years later, one in the guise of a homeless man, one a doctor cheating death in the Beverly Hills clinic, but that bit will come a little bit later. The angel was walking on the opposite side of the street with a mother. They both stopped to watch me for a moment. I saw her mum whisper something to her. The angel turned bright red and she giggled and they shyly approached. We got talking and the angel asked where I was from. I told her that I grew up in Wales in a small village that was once described in a local newspaper as being worse than an Iraqi war scene. I told them they would have never heard of it. They looked surprised and they said they had family there. I asked which part, and it turned out to be the village that I grew up in. Since you can basically count a population of 2 intergenerationally bred mutated hands, I asked who they were, and it turned out that that angel happened to be Joe's cousin. This encounter was always a foundational moment of serendipity in my life. In the years that followed, I took serendipitous occasions to mean I was in line with my purpose. Sometimes I felt like I'm following a script. It's just that I don't know the words or actions until they actually happen. But in moments of serendipity, I feel like they are playing out exactly as they were meant to. It was quite a bizarre moment for me that hundreds of miles away by chance this angel would be related to my lost friend. Upon learning who I was, they invited me back to theirs for a cup of tea, and I accepted and I fell in love. It was really good tea. That week, the angel took me to a favourite botanical garden and she pointed out a favourite flower. So that night, true story, I dressed in black, broke in by climbing over the fence, dug up the flower and presented it to her the next day. She called me insane, but it's safe to say that angel ended up being my first serious girlfriend. It was a weird kind of relationship. We both shared an unusual trauma for people who were so young, brought together by a tragedy. Even though sometimes I feel like she might have hated me at the time, I was convinced like it was some sort of Shakespearean fate that had brought us together. A morbidity that birthed light, that it couldn't be anything else. It felt like divine intervention. She was pretty troubled in her own way, and I was very troubled in mine. But in between the sludge of dealing with the constant symptoms, it was beautiful. That summer, her parents took us to Centre Parks, which is a posher version of Butlins, if you don't know, where they paid for all the activities and meals, and they let me do whatever I wanted. Coming from a poorer family, I wasn't really used to being spoiled to that degree, but I figured I'd just roll with it. One morning while I was there, I got a call from my friend Sega, and he sounded pretty mixed up, so I asked him what was wrong. He told me that there was no easy way to say it, but one of my other best friends, Callum, had died. He'd gone cliff jumping in the same cliffs we used to jump off as kids. The sea was particularly choppy that day, and he caught a cross current and he started to drown. Another guy that he was with had jumped in an attempt to save him, and they both drowned. The first day I met Callum, I was 11. He was in a year above me in high school and used to walk around with these massive baggy bright orange jeans. He hung around with all the goth kids and I thought they looked super cool. So the next day I painted my nails black and fashioned a necklace out of a severed extension cable from an old VCR machine. I infiltrated the group and I gained their trust. Not long after, me and Callum were friends, wandering around beautiful Welsh countryside looking for the most scenic places to smoke weed. We stayed friends throughout high school and I truly loved him. When Callum died, I couldn't properly grieve. I felt weirdly numb after losing Joe. I'd often feel guilty for my inability to cry at the time. A couple of years later, I'd learned another friend of mine that I used to play function gigs with had thrown himself off a cliff facing Dover. And again, I felt numb. I couldn't tell if this new acceptance of the inevitability of death was a beautifully liberating thing, or if it was a sign that my humanity was slipping away. To this day, death has kind of remained a bit of a matter-of-fact part of my life. During my years of sickness, I had to crawl through a morbid longing to be killed by my illness to find a more peaceful acceptance that death is just an inevitable consequence of life and it doesn't spare anyone. That never left, and I haven't ever really been scared of dying since. Some days I've tempted it. What I'm more scared of is having to live my whole life as a sick person. In my relationship with death, the most healing moment occurred just 2 years ago. My grandmother, who I loved to pieces, was dying, but I actually got the chance to say goodbye this time, to hold her hand, to thank her for being alive. I remember not long before she passed, she was lying in the hospital bed, and she was very weak and very pale, barely able to open her eyes. I asked how she was, and it seemed like a stupid question as soon as it left my mouth. She paused for a long moment, and she turned her head to look at me, and she opened her eyes, and she smiled, and she said she felt happy. And it was just one word, happy, which was simple and it was beautifully profound. And that was one time I'd gotten a chance to say goodbye. And it was the first time that I hoped that one day I would die happy. The following year, I would achieve something beyond my wildest dreams, and then I would lose it almost as soon as it came. Stay tuned for that.
Should we stop there? I know we went like the whole time without stopping.
I'm shocked.
No, I mean, it just felt good to do that.
Wow, Bonnie, this poor baby. There's so much to unpack there. My first questions were, was he sick? This is a sickness before the Lyme disease, or this is the same illness?
It's the Lyme disease, but it's before he knows, before he knows what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
it is. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. No. And then the second thing is, not only is he sick, but his brain is broken too. It's like Deanna just said, it's heartbreaking, and the loss and the wishing of death, and then there's the storyline just in general is like phenomenal. I mean, it's such a sad but beautiful struggle that someone can talk about it and even write about it, and it sounds beautiful just writing it, but tragic at the same time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few things I was like kind of taking down some notes as we were watching it, but when he was talking about not all the things he was trying, and he was trying to learn for himself what maybe was going on and what maybe he could do to try to fix it, and trying all these things. And I happened to be watching a show last night called It's a Sin. It's like a TV show out of the UK, I believe. And it was set in the 80s during the AIDS crisis. And there was a moment when all the folks are getting HIV or gay cancer, all that sort of stuff at the time. And nobody really knew anything about it. They had heard all these different things. And so there was one scene where they kept trying to do all these different things, to try to get themselves better. So if they heard somebody said you had to eat raw eggs every day, they would eat raw eggs every day, or they would take all these supplements, or even somebody drank acid to try to it was wild, the things that people did. But I also understand what that can feel like, to have something going on with your body and not know what to do with it, with about it, and for it to and for it also to cause limitations, within you, and dealing with those limitations as well. I think especially as a young person, that can be really hard. And then the medications that he was taking, or the things that he was doing, were often causing more discomfort or different types of discomfort. And in the beginning with my HIV treatment, that's a lot of what it was, trying different medications, seeing how they would work, dealing. Sometimes the side effects were so much worse than I felt on the regular basis, especially as a young person. I was in my early 20s. Before I started taking my medication, I physically felt fine. But then as I started to treat what was going on with me, then, I began to really deal with being sick and unable to work because of it, and all kinds of just really weird kind of things that go through your mind that feels like a dissonance at times. And so it's been kind of wild. Deanna is saying that she has an autoimmune disease, and it took over 20 years to find that out. It does a number on your mental, especially when you're made to believe it's all in your head. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's just people, it's hard when your symptoms and what's happening for you is happening in a way in which other people can't verify it or can't tell you what it is. And so there is kind of this air of like, either you're making it up or it's not as bad as you're saying it is, or that can't be happening because we would know what was wrong. And I had an opportunity to interview people who were dealing with pain management, and they had been taking opiates for pain management, for years. And then all of a sudden they were taken off of their pain meds. And pain is one of those things as well, where like a lot of people don't believe people who are in pain. Like when they say like I'm in pain or it feels like this, they just don't get it in the ways, even the medical professionals. So
Yeah.
just being able to find other people, when he was talking about trying to find other people that was having a similar experience, can be so helpful in helping you not feel so isolated and alone. And you almost start to, like he was talking about, you like they're gaslighting you. And then you start to think, well, I must be, you know what I mean? There must be something wrong in my head or whatever, And so it's really helpful to be able to connect with other people. And that's why I think it's really great that he's willing to share what his experience is, because there's going to be plenty of folks that are going to get to hear what he said, what he's talking about, and they'll be able to relate to it either because they're going through it right now, or maybe it's something that they went through, already. But
Yeah, and when you spoke about, and he spoke about trying all these things, and basically the underlying thing that I felt that he was trying to find was hope, that there is something. So I think he was really using that hope as his strength, and then the joy of none of those things worked, but music was the one thing that soothed him, and it took his mind away. And for some people it can be an addiction, it could, you know what I mean?
right.
But and those things were, I guess he wouldn't consider those to helping, but the music he loved, and through his music he found his first girlfriend, and he found another connection. So that's a huge and he spoke about he's on the right path. So yeah, music to him was a spiritual path that he needed to take. It's just profound that what he went through, and what we go through as humans to try to find comfort. And pretty much we'll try anything. And unfortunately, there are people out there who take advantage of us, when we're at our lowest and we're seeking help, And then I had this other thought frame of when he spoke about these doctors were just, not really giving a shit. I kind of resemble that, like police officers. I don't know why police came into my mind when he was talking about that. But, I have a heart palpitation that I've been having, and, I go to the doctors and you're fine. I get an EKG, oh, you're fine. We're not seeing anything, but yet I'm still having these palpitations. So to me, I understand when you speak of pain. My mom's saying she has this horrible back pain, and it's and to the point that I'm like, girl, stop. You know what I mean? But like you said, she may really, really be in pain, and it's not fair to just put someone else's pain or feelings or whatever it is. They're valid for them.
Yeah. And there's always like that thought, like he said, like it's in your mind. And I think when you're dealing with mental health stuff and all that sort of stuff, it is in your mind, but it's not like some make-believe thing in your mind, if that makes sense, And so I think that's the thing that can be really confusing, because there is a lot to do with the mind. And even with coping with some of the pain and those issues, you can kind of, like he talked about, like eventually you just get used to that thing just always being there, that it's a constant, and you begin to you're not okay with it. You just learn to just accept it, I guess, to some degree, And I think he kind of spoke to that a little bit as well. Deanna said, go ahead. She says, my ex had just left me last year because of my health, or so he says. He was having an affair. Anyway,
bastard, Deanna.
I know, right? Anyway, that's when I found REN. Quite literally saved my life. I didn't feel alone anymore. Yeah, that's cool.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Deanna, because my spirit wanted me to ask this question to all of the renegades out there. You are very loyal and love this man. What is the connection for you that brings like a community together, if you will.
Yeah.
Because now I'm invested. You know what I mean? And for me,
Mm-hmm.
the connection is my life struggles or my life. You know, when someone speaks about something, immediately as an individual, you want to put your resonance. Is that the right word? Your is that the right word? Resonance, or how it resonates? Yeah, how it
Uh-huh.
resonates for you. How does that translate for you? What gives you the passion to connect with him that way? I would love to know
Mm-hmm.
what it is for everyone that it is that you connect with Ren. That I
Yeah.
think that's important for me to understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a lot of
Thank you for sharing, Deanna.
what Rin was talking about, how like just meeting the girl who was like a cousin to, like, and kind of feeling that like there was some sort of like even like divine timing or serendipity or however way you want to like refer it, in which kind of made that happen. And that's exactly what it was for me too. Like she mentioned that it was High Ren was the song that she heard. And that was for me too. When I got introduced to Ren, it just came up on YouTube, and I was having a really difficult time spiritually. Just a couple years ago, and it wasn't even a couple years ago. It was like maybe around a year ago or so, and I came across High Ren, and it made me not feel so alone in what I was going through, and it reminded me of like hope, and it reminded me of like the bigger picture. It almost even made me feel more connected to my humanity
I
over
love,
like
I love that.
overall humanity, that it's something that we've dealt with are like, and it's something that we're continuing to deal with, but also that we're getting better at, I guess. Like, so there's like kind of this sense of hope, and this connectedness that was just really, it was a very serendipitous, moment for me as well when I got introduced to High Ren, or got introduced to Ren through High Ren.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel that with Mariah Carey.
Hey, I think that's like the power of magic and art in general, is that oftentimes it speaks to us in ways that are healing, not only to the artist, but also to those who get to witness it or experience it in some form or fashion. And then he did start talking about dealing with the loss of people around him as well, as like, because he's not only dealing with his own body limitations and potential, death. I'm sure that was something he feared often, but then to start to have your friends around you also die, that would have had to just increase
The darkness.
yeah, definitely, I would think.
And he is a bad boy. I don't care what you say. I think that girl liked him because he was a damn bad boy. Who climbs
Mhm.
over a fence, goes and steals the people's flower, and gives it to her? Yeah, Ren is a
Mhm.
bad boy. All girls like bad boys.
Or a hopeless romantic, one or the two. Yes. All right. Well, I think this is about to get into, I think last time when people were talking, they said that there's a song at the end of each of them. And so I think the way that he acted like it was stopped, that there's going to be a
Pause.
song, and we're frozen.
Yeah.
Are you moving on your end?
Yeah. I'll read it. Deanna says, also, it was a way for me to express my kids, ages 19, 10, and 8, how I was feeling. Music is amazing. Deanna, you got kids 19, 10, and 8? That's great. I love that. I love that. What else people thought about chapter 2? Sounds like he grew up on the other side of the tracks as I would like to say side of the tracks, but he got to experience some good things in his life. So that's really cool. And now I know what busking is. So I guess I'll be taking over Bonnie's show. I'm just kidding. Um, so please continue to share your thoughts on this. There she. Oh, hi, Bonnie. I was kidding. I wasn't gonna take over your show.
No, you should. You should. It's so annoying when that happens. I'm gonna have to keep talking because now I'm gonna have to
Okay.
re-upload
Deanna
things.
says she's 40 years young. My oldest is a junior in college. You go, girl. You're still a baby yourself. Yes, you are 45 years young. I will be 50, what, Bonnie? 52 this year. I
Dang.
know. And I'm still trying to, I think for me, my hope is to still try to find a relationship in this world.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm just tired of like the whatevers. You know what I mean? I really have to open myself up to be more versatile, I guess. I don't know. I give up on
Yeah.
the love thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're back in business. I think this is the tail end and should get right into the song here. So
Okay.
there we go.
And she smiled and she said she felt happy. And it was just one word, happy, which was simple and it was beautifully profound. And that was one time I'd gotten a chance to say goodbye. And it was the first time that I hoped that I would achieve something beyond my wildest dreams, and then I would lose it almost as soon as it came. Stay tuned for that.
Right. Here we go.
I don't wanna hear no words today, because that pull me under. In the castle of my room I'll hide away from the outside thunder. Gonna lock my troubles outside of this door, 'cause today it's just me and these four walls. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. Said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. The light that I hold, it turns to grey, and that makes me wonder, will I always feel this way? So far under, but I put my soul on show for everyone to see, 'cause even though it's bruised, I know it holds such beauty. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. Nobody here but me today, but that makes me stronger, 'cause I wash away the pain under sheets of feather. Gonna lock my troubles outside of this door, 'cause today it's just me and these four walls. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I crave relief in solitude. I search for peace, but pain pursues. Please something, just free me, give me some truth. My head is a prison, I need to move. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, say oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place. I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, hey oh. I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, I said I wanna run, hey oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place, hey oh. I said I wanna run away, fly to another place, fly to another place.
It took me back to like late 90s, early 2000s music.
He was so cute.
He
My
he looked
goodness. He was
very
so
young.
cute. And the drummer. Muscles. Muscles.
And it's definitely like it's Ren, you know, like Ren, no matter what he does, it's just like it's authentically him, you know?
Yeah, he's so vast and different. And my first thought, Bonnie, was how difficult or how gifted it is to be able to play an instrument. That's got to be so cool. And then
is,
to know how to, you know what I mean, put sound to just fascinating. But I think that song, for me, I needed more.
You
Or
wanted to
I
listen.
think I got like all the 4 words. I want to run away, fly to another place, close the door on these 4 walls. That's all I can catch from it.
I saw that the title was Runaway. I was not really listening to the words as much as I was just listening to like the sound
The
and the
music.
cadence. Yeah, and like just even seeing the life in him. Like just seeing the, you know, the, like, I don't know, I just was more witnessing him, you know, performing, I guess, versus like what was actually being said. But I'm sure if I listened to it again, I could catch it more. It's so hard, you know, like in these things, there's
What
always
was
so.
Trick the Fox? Because he
So
tricked the hell out of me.
So Trick the Fox was the first band because he was actually talked about it at the beginning of this, where he was talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Trick the Fox was like his first group, and he met Charlie, who would have been in that mix either way, maybe the person playing the drums, I'm not sure, and kind of talked about how they had telepathic, you know, a telepathic connection.
Together.
So I hadn't heard of that group either, but when I went to go find chapter 2 and other stuff, then it started to suggest it. And so then I was like, oh, I didn't realize he was in yet another band or another reiteration. So, but he also has a way of like connecting and collaborating with people that I think really like
the band connects with him, connects the music with the band.
In really great ways.
Up with each, but they're very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to, Deanna was saying that she's starting all over in her life because she was married for 20 years. And I was curious, sometimes sometimes with framing of things, I sometimes like, I get what you're saying in the sense of like having to start life all over. But I don't know, sometimes it's helpful for me because I feel like there's been times of my life when I've like started, like, I know I used to always say I'm starting over, you know, because I think life happens and we have huge experiences that will change us forever. Like we will never be the same.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been helpful for me, I think, to think of like, it's just it might feel like a new life or another life, but the cool thing is that we get to take the cool thing and not so cool thing is that we get to take our life experience prior to that with us on the journey. It's not like oftentimes.
That's beautiful, Bonnie. I love that.
And I don't want to like put any label on what she was saying, but when she said that, that's what kind of came to me, because I think when I was younger, I'd often think like, oh, fuck, I have to start over again. Oh, fuck, I have to start over again. And now I've just gotten to a point in my life where I just realize that just is a part of life, that things happen and
evolving.
And it's helpful, you know, and when people talk about it's just another chapter or it's another whatever, but it has felt like I've lived many lifetimes, you know, and, you know, there's that spiritual saying that in order to live, you know, we have to die to live, that kind of paradox. And, you know, sometimes things have to go away so that new things can come in, or so that we can experience something new and great. And it's awful that you're going through that. And I don't wish it on anyone. And also to just have some hope that, you know, there's so much more that's going to come from it. And it's sad, but, you know, I don't know all the circumstances, but it's been helpful for me to just see it as like a new thing instead of like, I have to start all over. I think even like
start over, as they say in the program, you get to start over.
Yeah, well, and sometimes they talk about like in recovery, you know, in some settings, you know, abstinence is such an important thing. And so the more time you have, you know, like that's kind of part of it. Like that's the goal, right? And so if you end up relapsing or using and you start your time over, that it almost feels like, oh, fuck, I failed. I have to start all over. And it's like, no, your time is over as far as your continuous sobriety. But your recovery is still like, that's just a part of your recovery now. And I think it's so important because it can be so devastating. And I think there's a space of surrender that needs to happen if we find ourselves sticking substances in our bodies again. Yeah. But I don't think it has to take us all the way back. And we can think about we can just take it as a learning point. And I don't know, I just don't, I feel bad for people because I've seen people relapse recently. And it's like, you're not starting all over.
And the beautiful thing about what I'm learning about Ren is that he's not a quitter. You know,
No.
he talked about wanting to quit, but he has never given up. And he's consistently evolving, like you said, and changing and bringing more of his experiences with him and sharing that with people. You know, some people are where he was and some people are where he is now in their life changes and things like that. You know, he speaks to such a powerful message. There's hope, there's strength, there's depression, there's pain, there's love, there's death. I mean, it's just a whole, I need a book.
Right. Well, I think he also speaks to like that core part of all humans. We fight to stay alive. You know what? We like fight to live. And I think we all kind of do it in our own little ways, depending on how life comes at us. And I think he's able to talk about that. But I think he also shares that he didn't necessarily do it great either. Not that we have to label it great, but he referred to himself being in a toxic place, and that was not about his health. Really, it was about his mental or his behaviors related to his health, which is reasonable and oftentimes what we do. So I think that's also an important message we can get from Ren too, is that like, yes, you can overcome it and yes, you can work through it, but it might not, I don't know. There's not any one way or right way to do it, I guess. I don't know. All right. Well, we should, oh wait, we have a song still.
Yeah, we have to do Freckles.
I thought we were done already. All right. No, I mean, I'm like, I wouldn't have talked quite as much if I would have remembered. I'm just going to take